Hi, everybody. Welcome aboard NFL Live. Nod to the military veterans. Major respect to those who have served and are serving now. A big thank you and a big welcome to Teddy Bruschi and Darren Woodson. What do you think? Do we let the two-time Super Bowl champ into the Friday fraternity here?
Absolutely. I'm already in. We already had this conversation. I'm in.
All right, so then you know what's coming. What's today?
The day before the day before.
Day before the day before.
Yes, ma'am.
And also the day after, a Thursday night game with so many elements that we will get to them one by one, beginning with the injury to Richard Sherman. Seattle's star cornerback will miss the rest of the season after suffering a ruptured Achilles tendon. Sherman, who has never missed a game since entering the league in 2011, said his Achilles had been bothering him all season long. Also part of the Friday team is Adam Schefter. Adam will be with us throughout the show. So, Adam, what do they do going forward now? He is lost.
Susie, the Legion of Boom as we know it is not the Legion of Boom anymore. Richard Sherman, who had not missed a game since 2011, now is going to be out for the remainder of the season. And so this is a team in the secondary, which had always been one of its strongest suits, that's going to be in transition. It's going to have to lean on its young cornerbacks like Shaquille Griffin at this point in time, players like Bradley McDougall at the safety position. They're going to have all sorts of young players step in as replacements, and you just don't replace one of the top defensive backs in all of football in Richard Sherman. It just doesn't happen that way. The Legion of Boom is going to have a very different look, and I think in a roundabout way, maybe the Seahawks were fortunate that Jeremy Lane flunked his physical with the Houston Texans, and he reverted back to their property because now they've one added defensive back at a time where they've now lost another cornerback for the remainder of the season.
Right, and safety Earl Thomas has missed 2 games with a hamstring injury, so maybe the upside here is that the next game isn't until we see them on Monday Night Football, so they have a big stretch, and hopefully they'll be able to get Earl Thomas back. By the way, in a text message to ESPN's Josina Anderson, Sherman said, "I'm going to be back with a vengeance." Of course he is, but in the meantime, it's the impact of not having him.
No, it's more than just the impact of losing him on the football field. And we know he's one of the most dominant football players at the cornerback position in the league. But at the same time, when you talk about the locker room presence and the confidence that he brings to not only himself, but to the rest of the guys around him, he has a huge impact on the game plan, how you prepare. I remember playing with Deion Sanders back in the 90s. And there was a part of the field you didn't ever have to worry about. And that was where he was lined up. So you didn't worry about him, and you worried about everyone else. So that's the effect that you're going to have with this guy here, is because you know that you don't have to worry about what Richard Sherman is doing. If you're Earl Thomas, if you're Cam Chancellor, you play the other side of the field and you take care, you lock that part of it down. But it's going to be a huge loss for this football.
Yeah, it's so, like you said, it's so easy to overload the other side away from Sherman, because Sherman, you got it. We don't have to worry about him. We're going that way. But also a quarterback's mentality. Sometimes Richard Sherman, he gets bored.
Yeah.
He gets bored because quarterbacks, Susie, they just won't go over there anymore because Richard Sherman's there, and they just decide, my chances, my percentages of getting completion are much higher when I go away from 25 over there. So now it opens a lot of things up for quarterbacks, and they say, you know, now I can look over there for my first look, and now I can try to threaten that new cornerback, and now I can see the whole field.
I know this is something you guys talked about today, and you don't have to react. It's just worth noting that Doug Baldwin and other Seahawks did note their frustration with playing on Thursday night, that there just isn't enough time to recover.
I got big reaction on that.
Big reaction.
I agree.
There's not enough time. The whole show. The whole show. All right, next storyline from the game. The Seahawks could be scrutinized for a possible violation of NFL policy. Russell Wilson was sent off the field for a concussion check midway through the third quarter, but was back in a flash. Here's how he explained it.
Well, I got smacked in the jaw pretty good there. So I wasn't concussed or anything like that. I felt completely clear. I was just trying to move my jaw. I was like, oh, man, stuck, you know, and I think I was on kind of like laying down on the ground for a second, just trying to get my jaw. I think Walt thought maybe I was, you know, maybe I was injured or something like that. And so I told him I was good. And he said, hey, you got to come off the field. You know, I think Walt did a great job, first of all. He made the smartest decision. I was fine, though, 100% fine. And then they finally went over through the whole concussion stuff and all that. We went through every question you can imagine. And I answered even some more for him just so that he knew I was good, and then went back in there.
Adam, the NFL announced this morning that it is conducting a thorough review of Wilson's concussion test, adding in a statement that If the concussion protocol is not properly followed, the club is subject to discipline. What more are you hearing about this?
Well, listen, the NFL has to conduct a thorough investigation here, even with Russell Wilson saying that he was fine and it was a jaw injury more than anything else. He must be cleared by an independent neurologist as well as his own team physician before he enters the game. The NFL has set up those blue tents on the sidelines that we've all seen this year for players to go be examined inside, away from the noise, out of the light, so that they can get a clear and decisive feeling as to whether a player did or did not suffer a concussion. It's hard to say that all those steps were followed last night, even if Russell Wilson did not have a concussion, and at a time where the NFL is trying desperately to change the culture surrounding concussions, every step must be taken, even if a player has not been concussed on a play. It will be up to the league to determine whether or not those steps were followed on this particular night, in this particular incident. If the league feels they weren't followed, it can fine the Seahawks $150,000 and impose other discipline. But now the league will embark upon that investigation to try to get answers, and we'll find out whether or not the answers that Seattle and Russell Wilson have satisfy the league.
Oh, yeah, we'll hear more about this. I'm pretty sure, Teddy, I've sat here with you, and you've talked about getting hit in the chin, right in the jaws. That's part of it.
Susie, every time I see that, I just laugh because the player had all the control there. He had all the control. When the blue tent came up, he knew, I better not be in here. It's like something was in that blue tent. I can't be in here because if I'm in this tent, he knows I'm going to be out for a while. I'm going to enter the protocol. Like Russell Wilson said, I didn't have a concussion. He made the diagnosis. Yes. He made the diagnosis on the field. He decided he didn't have a concussion. He decided he wasn't going into that tent because all players know what happens once you go into that blue tent.
You're going to be sitting there for a while.
You're not coming out.
No, you're not, exactly. And you know what? Can you blame him, though? Because I know we would have done the exact same thing, and that's why I laughed at it. I laughed at it because I figured, you know what? I saw Russell Wilson do it yesterday. If that had been around when we were playing, I would have done the same thing.
Yeah, but the tent, the whole protocol, it's to not let that happen anymore. That's the whole point.
It looks like a player can force his way through the protocol, just like Russell Wilson did. The independent neurologists, those are probably, I don't want to say it. Okay, are they nice people? I don't know. They're probably nice doctors, but when a player looks him in the eye and says, I'm fine, I'm going back out there, what does he do? You got to grab that player, put him down, and say, you need to go through the checks.
Go ahead, Russ.
Do something.
Go ahead, Russ. Do your thing.
Russ, I wouldn't have went in that blue tent either. That blue tent, you stay in there, that's danger. Get out of there. All players know that.
Can we get to the fun storyline now?
Go ahead, Susie.
This is the final one. Because, by the way, the Seahawks won 22-16, and Wilson was doing Russell Wilson things. He was 22 of 32 for 237 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and this magic act on the 54-yard pass to Doug Baldwin. Guys, I mean, this is nuts.
Street ball at its finest.
Great.
Street ball, Aaron Rodgers-like, Fran Tarkenton-like, whatever you want to do it. This guy's a special player to create. Beautiful to watch.
Yeah, it was beautiful, but he should have never thrown this football. I mean, look, Doug Baldwin made a great play in this aspect. Because, again, listen, Doug didn't stop on the route, but this is a 50-50 ball with a 5'10" receiver. Yeah. I mean, you just don't make those throws.
So we've seen all the injuries. Do you guys believe are they built to last despite all that?
I'll say this. That type of magic is hard to sustain. It's so hard to sustain. There has to be a point where he's more regularly in the pocket. You see how it's getting more difficult. There was another penalty last night. Russell scrambling around. His offensive linemen are holding, trying to grab, but then someone tries to release and they get the holding call. So this type of street ball, I just feel the chances are slim to make it for a world championship. Do I feel like there are championship players on this Seahawk roster, and they'll battle? Yeah. They'll get to the playoffs. Will they last all the way to the championship and win it? I doubt that.
No, because, first of all, they have no balance on this offense. And it's predicated on Russell Wilson creating plays like we just saw, getting out of the pocket, using his legs, and throwing the ball. At some point, they're going to run into a good enough defense like the Rams later on, and they're going to have those issues. And the problem I have with Russell scrambling around is at some point he's going to take a shot. He took one yesterday. He's going to take a bigger shot down the road because it's going to happen.
And all this is happening while critical pieces like a Richard Sherman are being subtracted from the team.
Well, we will look forward to seeing them on Monday Night Football next week. On to the ongoing drama in Dallas. Cowboys running back Ezekiel Elliott will be suspended for Sunday.